Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've had an enjoyable lunch. My name's Alistair Dutton. I'm the director of SCIAF. And my job for the next 20 minutes or so is to have a discussion about the experience of inequality and poverty. It's my great privilege to welcome Holliday, who's a peer advocate with the Navigate project with the Glasgow Homeless Network. Welcome this afternoon, Derek.
Thank you very much.
And also Isaac, and I've just said his name, Chapweteka.
Yeah.
Isaac is a physiotherapist from Malawi who works with the Cerebral Palsy, and I've gone blank, Cerebral Palsy Africa. It's a great pleasure to have you with us, Isaac. Isaac was telling me that he's one of 16 physiotherapists in Malawi. That's a population of 16 million people. So as you can imagine, he's a busy man. But before I go to Isaac, I thought, Derek, we'd start with you, if I may. And I'd like to ask you what your experience is of poverty and inequality, what your story is, and how you think people experience that today here in Scotland.
I think first and foremost, nobody chooses to be homeless or be in a position where they can't afford food or energy or be in a war or be displaced or be isolated. It's very difficult to understand not being in that situation and suddenly it hitting you. I've lived most of my life in poverty and from that, I've lived most of my life in poverty and when I was very young, it was so difficult. I was bullied outside for being different, for wearing different clothes, for not matching everybody who went to school. And then that difficulty of poverty took me back home where that was a very violent environment, where for long periods I was isolated. I didn't feel that I was part of my family, and that was incredibly difficult. And that really impacted me, and in a sense it empowered me. More recently, 8 years ago, I lost my brother, my gran, in 24 hours. A couple of months later, my father had a heart attack, and then within the next 18 months, 3 members of my family suffered cancer. In this process, you do what you do, you try and work on, you try and support the ones that love you. But when I stopped to care after my mum, everything hit me, and gosh, I don't have words to explain how ridiculous it was. I lost my life in a heartbeat. I found myself homeless. I found myself isolated. I was having 15 panic attacks a day. I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't answer a phone call. If a letter came through my door, I was terrified. What news was in this? Could I cope with this? I tried to seek medical care. I tried to seek help, but no one seemed to listen to me. No one seemed to put me at the centre of my care. No one seemed to ask me what was important to me, what's going to help me build myself back up. It was a process of medication. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be on tablets. I didn't want to be medicated. I wanted to be part of my own life and part of my society. I struggled getting someone to listen to me, someone to really hear me. And in that process, I spent 3 years in a property with no furniture. I was lucky if I could eat once a week, and 1 week out the month. I was lucky if I'd eaten a couple of days out the month. For 9 months, I was stuck on my own. I couldn't speak to my family. I was paranoid. I was having 15 panic attacks a day. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. And I blamed myself. I felt ashamed. I felt embarrassed. My friends, they didn't know how to cope with it. They didn't know how to deal with it. They didn't know how to speak to me or be there for me. So they left me. And that was really, really difficult. I'd probably say towards the last 6 months, I wanted to take my life. I'd made attempts on taking my life because I couldn't see a way out. And when I accessed services, I felt that it was my fault. I felt that I did this to myself and that I'm the one keeping me in this position. When you lose your mind, when a crisis hits you so hard and you just lose control of your brain, so then you lose control of your bodily functions and how your body reacts is an insane thing to try and comprehend. Towards the last month, I opened a newspaper, and in that newspaper was an advertisement, and basically it said local people supporting local people, lived experience helping your community. And for some reason those words stood out to me. I couldn't speak to my family, I couldn't leave my house for 9 months, I had social anxiety, I couldn't be in crowds. If I was ever out the house, 11 o'clock every night, I had to be home. Even if I was in my family's house, panic attack, had to be home. I opened up this newspaper and I looked at this article and I took the biggest gamble of my life. I went to this meeting in Trongate for the Glasgow Homelessness Network, which is an advocacy service supporting marginalised and vulnerable people who can't access services, who don't have access to computers, who don't know the complex systems and policies that support our housing and our welfare. And I sat at this table, and it was probably the first time that I was in a room where I felt, wait a minute, I could speak here. And I introduced myself, and then I don't remember what I said. I went on and on and on, but it turned out when I finished I was crying and there was people around the table crying, and then the other 13 people who came from our community who had even more tragic lifestyles and experiences all spoke and shared the difficulties they had. And in that moment it was crazy. In that moment my life just flipped, because I was like, wait a minute, I've not done anything wrong, it's not my fault I'm here, I've tried to do my best, I do matter. Everybody has capacity. That's one thing that I'm passionate about. Every single person in every community, in every country, we have capacity. We can do what we want. We are able to overachieve what we can expect, but for that to happen, you need to have a safe environment. You need to have no stigma. You need to have people that listen, people that will put you forward, people that will want you to manage your care. And that's what I got when I started this service 3.5 years ago. And at that point, I still couldn't pick up a phone, I couldn't speak in front of a large crowd like this, but working with that organisation and they looking at me as a person and the values, because I still had kindness in my heart, I still had compassion, I still wanted to help individuals, I still believed in society, and those 4 key pillars, I had something to add. Now, I am homeless, I have suffered from mental health for a long time. Over the last 3.5 years, I have worked my butt off. I've worked in lots of volunteer organisations and supporting people to access their voice, to access their rights. At present, believe it or not, I'm on the board of directors of the Poverty Alliance, representing the community activist group. I do work in Europe, supporting groups in Europe through the Fianza, including people, involving people, co-production and services, making sure that we build a service for our communities and make sure the communities are at the heart of that, because they know what's best. But on this journey, I was almost dead. I was pretty much guaranteed a couple of weeks I would have been gone, because I could not handle the pressure and the isolation and being judged when I go into services and no one listening to me, and I felt I was getting pushed further away. Through my journey over the last couple of years and all the work I've done, what I passionately believe in is making sure everybody has a voice, making sure that we include everybody in our society, because we're all humans, we all inhabit our earth, and to just listen and allow an individual to dictate their own future. Nobody wants handouts. Nobody wants you to do it for them. We need to build people's social competencies. It's not just about giving someone a house or making someone has a job. It's about the social competencies so they can feel confident, owning their life, making positive decisions in their life, and also making sure that they can be part of the society. And they need to take that journey so that when they hit difficult times, as we always will do, they have something to lean back on. When we do things for people and to people, we are robbing them of power, we are robbing them of independence and strength. So lots of the work that I do is to make sure that we give that power and strength back, let them know where the laws are, let them know what their rights are, make sure they know where they are in society, make sure they can get the exact same access and equality as everyone else, and help them understand how their communities are and where they can fit into that. And that's going to be me for the rest of my life, because people stood forward and helped me and had belief in me and didn't look at my mental health or my anxiety or my weird behaviours, because I had loads of weird behaviours at the beginning and I didn't understand my brain and I was doing stupid things in my head and I was making silly things, but in an environment where it was safe and people were comfortable and they just looked at me and, well, what can you do? Because you've got energy, you've got passion, you've got desire. You may have difficulties, but you can still contribute. So whether you're disabled, whether you're poor, whether you have an addiction, it doesn't matter. And I think the thing we've got to do is look at the stigma, look at how we look at these groups, look at how we involve them, and make sure that we're educating that everybody can do something, irrespective of where your crisis is in your life.
Thank you, Derek. I mean, an incredibly powerful account then of the ups and downs of that life. Isaac, coming to you, I mean, that talk of the isolation, what are your experiences, particularly with people with disability in Malawi?
Yeah, in Malawi, we are almost, as Red said, we are 16 million people. And people with disabilities to have a lot of challenges in a way that with 16 physiotherapists and 5 occupational therapists in the whole country, all these people need to get the service. I work in the southern part of Malawi, but my work is like diverse. I don't have a specific work which I do. It's like I have to tackle each and every part of the country working with a disability. Like with children, I work with children, trying to integrate them into the main school, in regular schools, because previously they have not been involved in the school. Children are hidden in homes. It's like they're associated with witchcraft. If you have a child which is disabled, he's like an outcast. I have an experience whereby one of the children was hidden for almost 9 years, and I had to intervene by going through the chiefs just to see that child, because no one was allowed to see this child. I had to pull this child out of the home and integrate this child into the school. And even when they go to school, they are not, the attitude towards this child is not all that good, because most of the children, they take him like something, they treat this disabled child differently. And even some of the teachers do have a negative attitude towards children with disabilities. And my role has been to work with the teachers, and this just started last year when I started working with Cerebral Palsy Africa, which is from here, an organization which is sponsored by Scotland government. I have been working with the teachers also, teaching them how to manage children in these regular schools. So it has been from, I have to look for these children, take them out using teachers, chiefs, and integrating into the schools. And most of these children, when they grow, they do have problems with mobility. I work with another organization, which is it's called Motivation Africa, which supplies wheelchairs. I have maybe to talk to them to assist in giving the children wheelchairs so that this child is able to go into school. If there is a gap that I have not been contacted, you may find that the mother may wish to go to the school, but maybe he's got a problem with not having a mobility aid. That means the future of this child is doomed. And on top of that, the challenge we have with the skilled people to work with children with impairments like cerebral palsy. With only 5 occupational therapists, it's like I work like an occupational therapist and also a physiotherapist, because most of the occupational therapists which are there, they are like in places which are designated to have their own mission statement, whereby this role of working in a diverse becomes a challenge. And it's very difficult to work I don't have time to rest. I am also, because of the knowledge or how I know our country is like, I have to work with students who are training at the university to teach them how disabilities are. I work with a special needs college. I work with my organization, which is Malawi Against Physical Disabilities. I also work with the Minister of Education just to bring awareness on how they can include children with disabilities into the regular schools in Malawi.
Thank you, Isaac. And as you describe your work with those children, and as you say, so locked away within their own villages, within their own families, and partners of SCIAFs working in very similar situations with people with disability, how do those children describe that experience of isolation? Because I think we can hear the words, but how do we really grasp what that feels like?
They do really experience of discrimination in such a way that most of the infrastructure is not disability friendly in Malawi. You'll find that for a child maybe to access treatment in the hospital, there may be a lot of barriers. Even if he's in a wheelchair, he may not be able to go into the hospital. The wheelchair is put outside, and the doctor has to go out and treat this child. Cannot have an access into the school. Even in schools, you find that the schools don't have lamps or steps of which a child has to be lifted to go into the classrooms. And most of the things, if you are to use a bus, you cannot manage to take a bus. It's very expensive because if you are to go on a bus, like to travel from one part of the city to the other, they will charge you for the price of the wheelchair. And it's like the wheelchair, you have to pay for it, the child has to pay, and the one who is assisting the child has also to pay. So it's like someone with disability in Malawi is very expensive. That's what people always say. To be disabled is expensive in Malawi because you need to spend a lot for you to access anything.
Thanks, Isaac. And Derek, just imagining those 14 of you sitting around the table the day you first spoke up, how would they describe inequality? I suspect inequality lives in rooms like this. What's the talk down at that level?
Inequality, it's a two-part, because it's when you're isolated and when you feel that you're not part of society and you're stuck with these dark thoughts. Not having anyone around you who understands you or not accessing a service where they understand you is incredibly disempowering, and it makes you want to give up. It makes you want to be more isolated, because when you put your head up in a crisis to go and get help and you're shot down, it's like a double knife in the heart, and it's very, very difficult to then build the strength and the power to lift yourself up whenever it's going on. For me, inequality starts at the first access to service. We need to drive the volunteer sector involved in all services. We need to have people with lived experience at the front door, so those that are marginalised, those that we can't get to, those that are too terrified to go in the bus or sit in the room with someone with a suit or have the ability to tell what's going on in their life without support is really disempowering. That's why our advocacy service is really important, but having people with lived experience in our services so that we can triage the services, so that we can bring more people in, because that's really important. When you're sitting in front of someone and you're breaking your heart and you're sharing the most difficult things in your life and you can see in their body language and their eyes, they just don't know, then that kills you. It really, really does. So for me, it's having more people involved, raising the awareness, challenging the language we use. Volunteerism doesn't cost anything. It's one of our best assets across our communities. We need to drive that forward, we need to have that more, because that drives integration, it raises awareness, it drives education across all religions and barriers, it brings people together. Nothing in our world history has ever changed more than a small band of people trying to do something right, and I think that's the starting point. Bring our communities together, make sure we put our funding into our communities, and make sure our services have people that's there, because trying to access a service when no one has lived experience, you don't want to go. So you stay away and you stay away and you stay away. It's only when you're lucky and you come across that one person, which I was blessed. It saved my life, because I wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for that organisation. And that's what drives me to reach as many people as I possibly can who are in a similar position, and hopefully they'll carry that baton on and carry that baton on, and that's just an onward mission. That's
really clear. So as we go on from the end of today, one of the clear things you'd like to see is greater use of volunteers and making that level of contact that really understands and gets it, rather than feeling in some way condescended to or something.
We get carried away with the labels, we get carried away with money, and we get carried away with what's happening in the UK government. But as people, we have the power to change anything in our communities. If every person in this room went out today and either challenged the wrong attitude or challenged a poor stigma or just stopped and listened to someone for 10 minutes and helped them, how much would that enrich their life? And that might be just that occasion that allows them and gives them the hope to step up and try and get back into owning their life again. So it's incredible.
So as Nicola Sturgeon was still talking this morning, that emphasis on the third sector and volunteerism within the third sector would be really welcome to you and the people who you know and work with so closely.
That's where the knowledge and the experiences, that's the grassroots, that's the people that are impacted, and that's the great organisations that do incredible work for very little money to really drive our communities and bring health and well-being and housing and safety and security. And these are all things that should just be there. We shouldn't have to fight for them, but that's where we are just now.
Brilliant. That's a really clear clarion call, I think, to us all, but for us to take out then into wider policy discussions. And for you, Isa, thinking about people within Scotland working so closely with you and others within Malawi, how can we help you as your partners get closer to people and help tackle inequality in Malawi?
In Malawi, it would be advisable first to assist in increasing awareness, of which is a project which started in fact last year, but it lacks like funding, like how to travel, how to disseminate the message to the local people on how somebody with a disability can be included in the community. The other thing is also if there can be, not like going there to work, like trained skilled people, like the way we have very few therapists who can be situated in those strategic places and help to assist the children, like teaching them from the grassroots level. Those who have had impairments while they are already old, they are treated at a rehab center, and if we can have to increase the capacity of that rehab center and also have skilled people who can help these people to be able to be sustained, to be independent when they are sent back home in their community, so that they can be able to continue staying in better life.
So the first is quite clearly tackling stigma and that real work at how we socialise people and get them to accept these people within the communities, and then real services and appropriate services close to where they live. Yes. So they can then start to build normal lives within it.
Yes.
Great. Thank you both very much. I'm very conscious of time and the rest of the day, but we were meant to have a third speaker today, but Labour couldn't be with us today, and it's strangely ironic that the third member of the panel can't be with us on a conference about inequality and poverty, because she had to go and sign on at the job centre today. So the very structures we have here meant that we couldn't have the speaker we want today. I know she comes from a background of work in HIV, and that very same message around stigma and the amount of work we've done on stigma around HIV and that real acceptance of people as they are. That's what comes through here. I think, just to wrap up, for me there are two essential truths about us all as people, and it's kind of echoed through what I've heard in the day so far. One is we are all made with intrinsic dignity. We all have that human dignity, and it's from that any of our rights, etc., derive. And the second is that we reach our best selves socially through our interaction with one another. And that wonderful story of you just being able to talk to 14 people and what that gave back to you, or you being able to talk about disabled people coming out of the house and what that then gives back to them, but gives back to the broader community as well. You know, what those children go on to do, what you're now doing here in the community here in Glasgow, terrific stuff. And it's those two things coming together, our essential dignity and the way we work together socially. So please put your hands together for Isaac and Derek. Thank you both.